Welcome back to Scotland and race day 6 at the 470 European Championship in the seaside resort of Largs. Today was a critical day for the teams as those at the top wanted to consolidate their position ahead of tomorrow's medal race. Dull grey skies over Largs, and so athletes had to wait some time for the wind to arrive. After a postponement ashore, the teams were fortunate enough to complete 2 races, but for both men and women, those races would be really difficult. The weather constantly changing its mind, many shifts and ups and downs for the 470 teams. In the women's fleet, the leaders did not perform so well in the first race. Kirilik and Dimitriev from Russia and Croatia's Ninčević and Zupan started out better than the others on the pin end. At the gate of the outer loop, it was Britain's Vegulin and Ainsworth alongside the Croatian girls who had the lead, whilst the Germans had now really fallen behind. The Slovenians had by now managed to cover some of their lost ground, having been the very last team rounding the first mark. Now both the Germans and the Slovenians knew that the left side would be the better choice, so they both taxed, but would they recover at this stage? The end of the race found Ninčević and Zupan in first place, with Lemater and Retanaz from France coming a very close second. The Croatians were now back in sight of a shot at a podium position, particularly after the bad performance by the Brits. At the same time, the girls from Slovenia and Bokman and Panush were battling it out during the last reach, with the Germans managing to stay ahead. Vegulin and Ainsworth had their worst result of the championship so far, a 13th place, a disappointing result for them. Now they needed an incredible race in order to recapture the lead. In the men's fleet, it was obvious from the first race that the pair of Fantela and Marenic really were in it to win it. They weren't just determined, but risk takers too. They pushed at the start with Canada's Ramsey and Lee right next to them, but most of the other sailors actually started out too early, and so there was a general recall. And some extra time before the next attempt. Once again, the Croatians had an excellent start. Having chosen the pin end, they crossed the line exactly as the gun went and then accelerated rapidly. The Sheremetyev brothers from Russia were forced to tack and head to the right side. Fantela and Marenic sailed the left side, with the Brits, Saxon and Mason on their heels. But they were fast enough to force the Brits to tack. The Croatians were now leading the race and tacked in order to cross the fleet. They rounded the gate of the inner loop first, with the Russians chasing. But the Russians had no choice other than tacking. In the end, even if it seemed set to be a straightforward victory for the Croatians, they made a terrible mistake a few metres before the last mark, close to the finish, and were penalised by the jury and forced to take penalty turns and lose precious places, letting the Russians pass them. Austria's Barger and Marr were now first, the Sheremetyev brothers right behind them, and the Croatians in 5th place. Quite a disaster for them. It would be a whole different story, however, in the last race. Fantela and Marenic's determination and experience really paid off here. Time for them to score just one more bullet and claim the 2012 470 European Championship victory ahead of the medal race. Let's hear what they have to say about the event and their performance today.
The start is quite hard. I think every start of the big regattas is hard, especially here in Scotland. We had a lot of rain and a lot of shifting winds. So 4th place for the beginning was not so perfect, but still okay to for our goal, which was trying to be top 3. We had some strong winds the other days, 2nd and 3rd days, some strong winds. It was a bit easier for us, and we sailed our race. We sailed how we usually race, and that was enough.
Today was a tough day. We knew that it's last day, so there was some pressure because of that. And in the first race we did a really good job. We were close to first, fighting for the first place, and then we got penalized, and at that moment 3 other boats passed us. We finished 5th, which reduced the gap between us and the Russians. But for the second race of the day we reset our minds, and we sailed another really good race that we won. So now it's finished. We won the race before the medal race.
The battle for the silver medal tomorrow is likely to be between the Russians and the British. A quick look at the overall results then before we leave you for the day, and we see that the Russians and the British are only separated by 3 points. So everything really is open for the medal race. In the women, the order for the first three remains the same, although any of the top four teams, Britain, Germany, Slovenia and Croatia, could secure medals. So stay tuned and join us tomorrow in Largs for the medal race, when we'll find out the teams claiming the podium places at the 2012 470 European Championship.